A quick disclaimer, this video is going to get into virgin territory. However, for this one, I also want to make a disclaimer about the magicians that I'm going to talk about. They're on Rogan, I'm not. So clearly they're doing something right and I'm doing something wrong. But I will share my opinion as a professional virgin as to what I think from an outsider looking in, what they should have done. Again, I'm aware. So today we're going to be talking about what not to do if you're a magician and you are on the Joe Rogan podcast. Now, it goes without saying that one of the most popular, if not the most popular podcasts in the entirety of existence is the Joe Rogan podcast. He gets people from all walks of life to attend and show up on the podcast, historians, scientists, and magicians. Now, Joe Rogan had a television show called Joe Rogan Questions Everything. And in that, they featured Banachek. Now, Banachek is a known magician to the community. He's a mentalist. He's one of the best. He's a skeptic. He was part of the Alpha Project, which is this whole thing devised by James Randi, specifically devised to debunk these psychics that end up getting scientifically tested. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Banachek. His Psychological Subtleties book is a must-have if you're a serious student of mentalism. And he has some video projects that he's released that I think are must-haves as well if you are someone that is considering learning the art of mentalism. However, with that being said, I do think that his performance on the Joe Rogan show was not the best.
Tell me what's up with these nails.
Yeah, take a nail.
Okay.
All right. So this is what I want you to do. You're going to have to describe what's happening. Okay. So this is one of the very first things I started doing, Joe, is this, like the nail. I want you to look at the nail.
You're holding a nail.
And I want you to watch what happens.
Okay. I'm watching what happens. Oh my God, you're bending it. This is incredible. You're bending it.
And as you can see, the nail is actually slowly
bending. Outrageous.
Bending.
I like how you're shaking your hand too.
Yeah.
Showing your powers.
And the thing about that, take a look at it. It's not a trick nail. It's nothing like that. I mean, everything I use, from silverware to forks to anything that I do, is actual.
You like this and slowly do that.
No, yeah, no. But
Can you straighten it out again?
I was at the very end, right there, like that.
Uh-huh.
So here we see Banachek attempting to display the concept of a bent nail. Now, this is a classic trick in mentalism, metal bending. This is something you've seen psychics do. And Banachek thought it would be a great opener to his performances on Joe Rogan. Now, you could see immediately that Rogan said, well, you just held it here and then just did this. And he was right. Now, Banachek does go off to say, oh no, I held it by the very end. But you could see the type of audience that Joe Rogan happens to establish himself as. Rogan is a bro. He's a dude. The show that you happen to be on with him, it's Joe Rogan Questions Everything. And you're going to see later on that Banachek actually does metal bending to where Joe Rogan is absolutely astonished. As you can see here, Banachek performs the classic twisted fork routine. I believe he's the one that innovated this particular method. And Joe Rogan is left with this impossible object, which is a fork with a twist in it. In my humble opinion, as a professional virgin, I think that this is how Banachek should have opened. The bending nail is very, very visual. However, if you hand out a nail, you show it to the participant, and then you execute a switch, which I think for the actual show wouldn't be practical.
Like name a number, any number at all.
Okay.
Go ahead.
13.
Okay, and that would be a common number for a lot of people to choose.
Sure.
There are specific words. If I said to you, think of a number, name any word with 7 letters or less. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cunt.
Of course. Most people would have just... Most people.
Is that a common word?
No, that's not a common word. No, most people would have chosen love or hat or something like that.
Okay.
Along those lines. A dog or cat are really common ones. But here's the interesting thing. Okay.
Okay.
So inside this wallet.
Did you give up on the word because I chose a word that was...
No. Yeah, inside this wallet, I put it in. I was driving.
You wrote it?
Well, I was driving earlier on, all right?
Right. And someone cut you off?
And you know what doodling is? Doodling is when
Yes.
you kind of scribble without even looking. Mm-hmm. And as you notice inside here, you open it up, tell me what's on there. So, I don't want to touch it. What does it say?
It's hard to read.
Yeah, it's my handwriting and doodling. Does it say 13 and cunt?
Yeah, it does. Let me see. Holy shit. Well, it's such bad handwriting that I gotta think that you wrote that underneath the table.
That is definitely a 13, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah. You wrote it under the table while we were doing this.
How would it end up inside the wallet?
Because you shoved it in there.
No, this is...
And Banachek goes on to perform something that he's done probably thousands of times, which is getting a thought of thing inside of a piece of paper, inside of a wallet. Banachek is notorious in the world of mentalism for something known as pocket writing, and he is one of the best, if not the best, with this technique. Pocket writing is exactly what it sounds like. You're writing something secretly in your pocket. Here, I think that he decides to do it under the table, but Joe Rogan calls him out. And it's just the golden ratio of cringe. Now, Banachek justifies the crummy handwriting by saying that he did it while he was driving, which is typically something you would say in the context of a pocket writing routine. The reason for that is because even if you practice a lot, it's still very hard to write in your pocket and very difficult to make it look like something that you wrote outside of your pocket. So mentalists have ways to justify it. Oh, I woke up in the middle of the night and I just scribbled it on a nightstand. Or I was driving and I happened to write this. Or I wrote this behind my back. And here Joe Rogan catches him out almost immediately. Now, the problem with a routine like this is that, well, there's a simple explanation. And usually the simplest explanation is going to be the one that's right. For someone like Rogan, you have to do something that doesn't have an explanation. Darren Brown calls it in the air of invisible compromise. So you have to do something that doesn't have any visual compromise. And here the visual compromise, whereas there's no process, Joe Rogan names something and that ends up written down in a piece of paper inside of a wallet. The compromise is the handwriting. How do you explain that in a way that makes sense? Now, this was shot a couple years back, so technology has advanced a lot since then. But if Banachek maybe had access to something like a pocket printer and an assistant, I think that would have been way better off than having this crummy handwriting inside of the wallet. Now, obviously, that presents a lot of logistical issues. You have to bring somebody on to the set with you. Who are they? What are they doing there? Or you could do some sort of voice-activated thing, which is very common now. A lot of different factors, but I think in hindsight, looking at this performance, that's what I would probably end up doing if I were to be placed in a very similar situation. Rogan is very hard-headed. You have to do things that would appeal to a very macho man, someone that you know is going to question each and every single aspect of your performance.
I'm going to fan the cards out. I want you to think of any card you see.
Any card I see.
You get one?
Okay.
You see it?
Yes.
Did you get a red card?
Excuse me?
Did you get a red card?
Yes.
Good. Since you got a red card, I'm going to do the same with you across the table. I want you to think of any card, but get a black card, okay? Did you get one? Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask one question because I have to ask questions sometimes to try to figure out exactly what it is you're thinking.
Okay.
Did either one of you choose a high card?
Yes.
No.
Okay. High cards are hard for me to get, but I will try. All right? Look at me.
Dum, dum, dum.
So you got a red card. I'm going to say your card is probably hearts. Your card over there, Jamie, is black.
Yes.
Probably spades.
Nailed it. 50,
Two of spades?
Yes.
Hearts, king of hearts?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me see that deck of cards
Yeah,
again.
I only had 3 choices.
Yeah.
I had a queen of spades, an 8 of spades, and a 2 of spades. And I switched from the queen of spades before you asked that question, high or low. I went low.
You went low? You went low, yeah.
Why'd you do that?
Because I thought he was going
Because
to
you
go
thought
high.
he was
Because
going
he
to go high.
mind
You thought I was
fucked
going to
you,
go high.
bro. He mind fucked you.
Thought I was going to go high.
Now, here he does another card trick, which I think would usually fare very well, which is a thought of card trick. He has Jamie, which is Joe Rogan's producer, look at a card, and then he also has Joe Rogan think of a card, and he provides a very logical reason as to why Jamie specifically has to think of a black one, and Rogan has to specifically think of a red one, because he wants both parties to have different cards that they're thinking of. However, here the method is almost immediately broken down by Jamie, where he says, well, I only had the option of thinking of 3 cards, and he mentions the 3 cards, which is pretty much the method. Now, again, I'm saying this from a virgin on the outside looking in, but I do think that this is a very poor choice as to what tricks to actually perform on a medium like this. This would probably work well on any other podcast, probably work well on any other radio broadcast for generic audiences, but Joe Rogan is a very distinctive member of an audience. He's going to question everything. Look at the name of the show that you were on with him. Now, Banachek has a lot of things that I think he could have done in place of these particular routines. He has a knife test, which I think is brilliant, where he apparently has the participant stab him with an envelope that may or may not contain a knife. That's something that's visual and appealing to someone like Rogan because it takes up on this macho, oh shit, this might actually kill him sort of vibe. Things like that I think would work excellently in a platform like this. But Banachek decided to go with some conventional means. Mind power deck, I believe, is what he used. Standard metal bending. And Joe Rogan really hankered on that bent metal with the twist in it, which shows you the type of thing that impresses this man. He thinks, oh, I could easily bend a fork and then make you think that I'm bending it in front of you. But he says it himself. I couldn't put a twist on a fork like that.
I mean, you just sit and look at this fork afterwards. You're like, okay, I don't think I could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I just gave you a regular fork, Jamie, you think you could do that? Spin that? I don't think I could twist that thing like that.
So you really have to appeal to his very macho side. Just like you could appeal to your macho side by checking out my brand new book, The Art of the Squeal. You could check it out, linked in the description section below, full of moves, routines, tricks, tutorials. It's fun. Why don't you go and look at it? Or of course, you could check out the PigCake Magic Academy, the home of over 1,400 different magic tutorials going over card stuff, coin stuff, everything you need to become the best magician you could possibly be. Magic's hard, my friend. So is mentalism. And in this case, I think that you already had a pre-established relationship, which is great because there was more of a conversational tone in the actual podcast interview itself, rather than an air of, okay, magic boy, let's see what you could do, which ended up faring well for Banachek. But I think in terms of the performances, it definitely could have been structured better. And again, I know he's on Joe Rogan. I'm looking at him on Joe Rogan. So clearly he won. But I think it is something that is worthwhile to look at and worthwhile to consider if you ever happen to be on a format similar to that. With someone like Joe Rogan, you really have to cater that magic and mentalism to Joe Rogan. You can't go in there with a pre-existing set of things that you've already been doing because that may not work. For him, you have to question as to what he's going to ask. And you already have a pre-existing library of potentially thousands of hours of content that you could use to try to gauge the type of man that he is. So don't do things with obvious methods. Don't come up with BS justifications for the reasons as to why you're doing things. But other than that, I do think that it's still a very worthwhile interview for you guys to watch. I'm going to leave it linked down below. It's a great one. He talks a lot about the Alpha Project. He talks a lot about skepticism, and it's still very, very good. What do you guys think? Leave your opinions down in the comment section below. Some opinions at the end of the video. I guess I got my medicine bottle here. That's kind of embarrassing. This is Lexapro. I've been taking a little bit of it. I hate the fact that I'm now a druggie, and it really doesn't make you feel much. That's the thing. That's the problem with something like this. I was having crippling anxiety attacks for no reason. I always used to make fun of people with anxiety and go, hey, buddy, just feel better. Just feel better. But then you got to realize, no, it's things going on in your brain that are outside of your control. Things that your brain happens to manifest in your physical body that you can't really have control over unless you have some sort of supernatural ability to control chemical imbalances in your brain. You could try, but sometimes you need medical intervention, and this has stopped it completely. But at the same time, I also went to horror houses and haunted houses, and I wasn't scared by any of the scare actors. Usually I'm a scaredy cat, and I blame this because this is the only thing that I've done that's different. So I don't know. I'm not a fan. I'm phasing it out of my life, taking less and less and less. But at least for the anxiety, this really helped out.
I see you again, when 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 I see you again.